Okay. Yeah, it's just easier.
Dua Nutter. Dua for joining us today for our regularly scheduled communion. It's good to see y'all. Thank y'all for the compliments. People was complimenting my orange. I appreciate y'all. Dua. And Dua also for the comments about how many of y'all appreciated the song. For those of you who've never heard that before, that is a new spirit from the Sit's first album, a new ambiance, which is still available on our website for purchase as a digital download or as a CD. Hashtag shameless plug. Please make sure you pick up the music today and add it into your music library. To diversify our collection. So we have, sometimes we have the secular moments, we have the street with the ratchet moments, but we gotta have the spiritual moments too. We gotta have the meditation music. We gotta have the journaling music. The spiritual bath music as well. So it might not be the thing you bump in the car on the way to the club, but it's the thing that you bump in your home when you're trying to create sacred space and connect with the Netzeru.
And why not the club? You don't choose the club before you go to the club. Come to the club. Like I came today.
Come to the club in peace and satisfaction. All right. So before we go any further, let us properly open the way with our Sunday dua by saying Amatu Panatir. Sawek tuament impanatir, au dua oma, kedipa haru. The translation, give yourself to Netter daily, keep yourself for Netter daily, and do it tomorrow as you do it today. We give homage to the Creator, who is like our Father and who is like our Mother, who is everything that we can perceive and everything that we cannot perceive, who is everything and yet is no one thing, who comes to us in the form of the Neteru Ra, who is the light of the heavens, the light of the inner planes, as well as the light of our lives, who shines the light for us on the path of Ma'ati, which is the path of truth, justice, righteousness, and harmonious balance, who comes to us in the form of the light of vitality, giving us the strength and the endurance to live and act upon that which we know to be true. Homage to you, the one who shines in and through us as a beacon of light for those who are blind to the facts of their place, their position, and their responsibility in the divine scheme of things. May we be Ma'akaru, true of thought, word, and deed to our highest reality. And in the moments of crises, in the dark nights of the soul, when it appears that everyone and everything else has let us down, so it is, and so shall it be. Everyone join me by saying, Amen Ma'at.
Amen.
Ma'akaru.
Ma'akaru.
Dua Netter Ra. All right, everybody. Some of y'all are a little bit ahead of me. I saw the roll call starting already. So shout out to Lincoln, Nebraska. We already know you're in the building. Shout out to Hyattsville, Maryland. We already know you're in the building as well. So I want to know who else is in the building and where y'all hailing from. Who's with us? Let me see. I see. I've got the locations from Facebook so far. Let me see what's on YouTube. Edmond, Oklahoma. Yes, do our answer. East Orange is in the building. Give thanks. Yes. Northern New Jersey is in the house. Give thanks. What pet marker?
In the living room.
Do our answer.
YouTube is stubborn.
All right, Reading, Pennsylvania. What is that? Huh? Reading. Okay, that makes more sense. I feel like that's the first time we've seen that one. So Anetta, it's nice to see you. Washington State is in the house. North Carolina is here. Might be the first time we've seen Washington State too, or at least in a while. Long Island, New York is here. So Anetta. Okay. I love when we reach far and wide. New Jersey to Washington. That's dual coasts.
Yeah.
So do on that for that.
That's right.
Glad to see that. All right, I think that's it for the roll call. So Nasid, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. So once again, we have an intimate setting with all three of us here today. So it's another holiday weekend, right?
It is Memorial Day weekend.
Last time it was Mother's Day. correct? You know, so
Correct.
we're gonna make the lesson in and out. I'm gonna make it quick, but I know people say that they don't celebrate holidays, and there's no judgment on that. We have somebody else.
Pickerington, Ohio.
Oh, that okay? That's
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. I think we
Oh,
were
I
seeing
know, that's
Pickerington.
that. That's that.
So that's it.
It just lets you know how big and small the planet is
Yeah,
at the same time.
exactly.
Like sometimes you could be in the same state, and feel like you're a whole state away. You know, it takes 2 hours to get to certain places within the same state, yet it take an hour to get out the state and things like that. But what I was saying is some people, a lot of times in our community, we say we don't celebrate holidays, and I never judge people on that. Even whether you celebrate the holidays or not, we still enjoy the time off to do some extra things and spend some time with family. In our conscious community, we never really celebrate anyone's holidays. We just take advantage of the time. So of course we appreciate all of you who did show up, even though we know the beach is calling some of you, but you're here. And certain people, and we appreciate people showing up, and outside of the park is calling them, but they're here and you're here. So like I said, I'm gonna try to be in and out with it. Right now I'm in my less is more era. I'm about conversation. I mean, energy conservation as well as reciprocation, because we do a lot and we share a lot on this platform, or us as Temple of Anu. And sometimes I'm not quite sure what it is that people be expecting. The old narrative is they try to put people in positions such as ourselves, like we don't do enough and that we gotta constantly do more to invite people to our sacred place, our sacred spaces, as well as our sacred circles, which are really asking us to keep inviting strangers into our sacred spaces, in our sacred circles. And somehow people expect us to constantly self-efface ourselves, or so-called stay humble and do great work for others, and somehow look over what's important to us. So my lesson is more era is more about appreciating what it is that we already have and who it is that we already have around. Because like I said, we show up every communion and we share a lot, and because we're real people, and as real people we go through real things. And as far as I'm concerned, as the Temple of Anu, we always show that we go through real things, and we're real people, and we go through real things in real time. Because a lot of people, they like to hide when they're going through things, and when they feel vulnerable, we do it right in front of your face, and we talk ourselves back into balance and centeredness with the teachings of our legacy. And it's rare that you see that in this day, where people just get to demonstrate or show you all false personas of themselves. For instance, everyone knows my mother transitioned. In our tradition, we teach you have a 70-day mourning period. I didn't even take my whole 70 days. I came back early and I demonstrated and I spoke to you all that I'm not stuck or devastated by the process. So that's letting you know in live time what's going on with me. And I also came back early because I know it means a lot for many of you all to see me and hear me. And since I wasn't in a bad way, I chose to come back early from my cycle. So we're not here to beg people for or solicit donations and things like that. What we will do is remind you of what's already apparent in your heart, is to support good people that's doing good things. Don't have good people begging for your support. You know the right thing to do. We've been Symbol of Anu, been around almost 30 years. We ain't dropped the ball or messed up since. I don't know what people think they're waiting for. You waiting for some type of mistake to be like, oh, I knew they wasn't perfect. We shown we weren't perfect, and we shown we weren't perfect, and you watch us many times bring ourselves back in balance right in live time. So do the right thing, support good people. You know who we are. You know what it is that we're trying to do. You know we're trying to acquire a new space, a new sacred space. And at this point, I know the initiates show up in live time, but When I look at the demographics, I see that there's, like I said, 150 to 200 people. So there's more non-initiates than initiates that's listening to us. So I encourage those people to do the right thing and support good people. If you want to see us win, support us so we could reach those goals. Because we understand that many of you all are living vicariously through us. So with that being said, welcome to the communion. And you have him at Netta and Barmaat, and you have me, Nasib Biddy, Rasan Kepper. Welcome to the communion. We are the temple of Anu, the home of the Kemetic legacy, where we teach about the greatness of our ancestors and we teach you how to live and apply it in live time. Is that an accurate definition of what it is that we do? Would you agree? Mm-hmm. So let us get into today's lesson. That was an opener lesson. So today we're going to continue the conversation about reconciling split energy. Let's get it. So reconciling split energy. What is split energy? What do we mean by split energy? It means double directional and not always in a good way. We have this saying in our community that we're spiritual beings having a human experience, a physical experience. So that's a proclamation. That's a charge. And we all say we're divine beings and we're gods and goddesses and stuff. There's, we say a whole lot of stuff. But split energy is when you say these things and you give yourself a charge. You say the charge out loud. You reaffirm it in your conversations. But sometimes you're not always aware that the words, your thoughts, and your actions are actually in contradiction to what it is that your charge is. So let me let everybody off the hook. No one has to be perfect. Because sometimes we get into this trolling spirit and we start counting points on who's more perfect and who are not. Because to a degree, everyone has split energy. And to bring resolution to what's like, how do you deal with split energy in a balanced, respectable way? I would say just make sure you're correct more than you are incorrect. So that requires a certain level of conscientiousness about the things that it is that you're doing. So split energy is when you say certain things and you claim you stand on things, but the contradiction, the gap of the contradiction begins to be so wide where it starts undermining the charge that it is that you say you're about. So split energy is part of why we're not moving the needle as a conscious community. Split energy is why the needle is not moving for us as melanated people across the planet. Yeah, I hope y'all understand or get an idea what I'm talking about, what this split energy looks like and what it looks like in live time. Sometimes our very actions contribute to split energy. Sometimes the things we say or do or fail to do contributes directly and indirectly to the split energy. Because sometimes you could be in a position of influence and your split energy gives other people permission to have split energy also. To give an example of it, like I grew up in the 80s and I was practicing Islam in the 80s, but I was part of hip hop culture, still am part of hip hop culture. And parallel to the Islam, the Black Muslim movement, there was the Nation of Islam, there was Ansar Allah, and then there was the 5% Nation, the Nation of 5%, the Nation of Gods and Earth. I think they call themselves the Nations of Gods and Earths now. Everybody, goes through transitions. But they had this I am God philosophy. That's why when you hear old hip hop, everybody had a different type of bravado. Right now, hip hop is in this shadow work. Everybody just feeling like they so down and they losing, and just they telling hard stories and things like that. Back in, I'm sounding old now. Back in the day, back in my day, the 5%ers added this thing to our dialogue that everybody picked up, whether you was 5% or not, because it was hot. Hip hop is urban folklore where the MC could become the superhero. And that was empowering. That's why everybody likes hip hop, because you could be anybody you want to be in hip hop, even if that's not where you actually are, even if you're not manifesting that at that point. So in the 5%ers, they had one part of their dialogue, the black man is God. And Brand Nubian had it as one of their verses, about to do a hip hop quotable. It said, black man is God. Father, what is it? Owner, maker, cream of the planet Earth, father of civilization, God of the universe. Now that's hot. That's powerful. That's empowering. Now, if you remember the last two conversations I was having, I said we have to start changing the narrative. Some of our narrative in our community is very empowering. It could feel empowering up front, but there's an undercurrent of disempowering things or disempowering thoughts within that same paradigm where it leaves you in the victim mentality or victim mode. So we say owner, maker, cream of the planet Earth, father of civilization, God of the universe. It doesn't get any better than that. It's like embrace it. But the downside is inside that same philosophy, they teach that the black man is God for whatever reason. They explain it in their doctrine, but in the divine scheme of things, it always seems weird when we have logical conversations about mythology, whether it's dealing about with the Judeo-Christian thing, whether it's dealing with the Kemetic thing, the Hebrew thing. Everyone has questions about the theology, and it's good because it's the spark conversation. Is a spark conversation with your higher self that exists within you anyway. So when you ponder these stories and open your mind, you can get the answers, and the answers is your business. Like it's not your business to figure out the answer and tell everybody else. Sometimes you spoil other people's process by telling them the answer that they were supposed to live themselves into. That's the whole purpose of mythology, is to study, to experience, to understand, and live yourself into the answer. Not talk about it, not debate it, not to dishonor other people because they haven't figured it out yet or they figured it halfway out yet. It's not about that. So, in that same philosophy, the black man who is supposed to be God, the owner, maker, cream of the planet Earth, father of civilization, God of the universe, for whatever reason created a devil. And the devil was the white man, so called the white man, and he was weak and wicked, and he was inferior to God in every way. But yet, this inferior being has the power to have his foot on God's neck indefinitely and control all the resources of the planet. See, and that's what I'm talking about, the split energy. So you have this high empowering philosophy of God, owner, maker, cream of the planet Earth, father of civilization, God of the universe, but inside the same doctrine, a so-called weak devil got his foot on God's neck. How is that possible? Or how is that possible to sustain that any more than a second if he's so inferior? So what happens is there's never really any urgency to win. So if you win and become I self Lord and Master, and that's what Islam means to them, and that's I self Lord and Master. If you become I self Lord and Master and master your circumstance, and people will celebrate, that's right, you God, you're supposed to be sovereign in your life. But if you don't do it, then they say it's okay because that devil got his foot on your neck and it's messed up and such and such. So you don't ever really lose. You win when you're winning, and you win when you lose because of the weak and wicked devil. When in reality, the devil should never be able to have his foot on the neck of a supreme being. So we deal with split. That's an example of split energy. So it's a tradition, or we have this way of being able to claim big things and spout platitudes and never really have to demonstrate. And if you can't demonstrate, it's somebody else's fault besides your own. Whether it's the devil in the form of a white man, or whether it's the devil in the form of this invisible being that's almost omnipresent, just like so-called God. Matter of fact, the way they talk about it seems like he's more present and active than God in your life and in situations. But we're not going to get into that. We're dealing with split energy, even in our traditions, even in our spiritual communities, when you break away from Judeo-Christian things, because you saw that as a contradiction. We go, I'm God. We said there's no divine beings outside of ourselves. And then we start ridiculing people that acknowledge something outside of themselves. I'm God. Everything else is illusion. You get to interpret reality the way you want. That's ultimately empowering, right? That's liberating. People feel that's liberating. That's why they come to the conscious community, because they think it's no rules and it's all liberating and it's all cool and I live on my terms. But we also say as above, so below, as above, so within, as without. That means everything is a reflection. So the gods do exist outside you. The gods do it. So we have water in our body, right? And we could go to a creek or a lake. There's water outside of ourselves, right? We have wind and air inside of us. Our body generates heat. So everything that's outside exists within. So you'll be a fool to say that wind ain't blowing outside. You'll be the fool to say that that water, that lake and that stream is not there. It's just only in me. In fact, to confuse you even more, you got to breathe that outside air to continue living. You got to drink that outside water to replenish your water inside. You got to stay warm from that external heat to stay warm in the internal in the winter time. Split energy. So with this philosophy or this so-called liberation, what happens is this, and this is what's happening right now in our community as we speak, and it's been happening since the inception of the so-called conscious community. So as you embrace this philosophy, 1 year goes by, 2 years goes by, 3 years go by, then a decade goes by, then you start looking like, damn, I still can't control the weather. Because remember, we was talking that talk, like I control everything, I'm the God and such, and there's nothing outside of me, and I create realities. You be like, damn, I can't control the weather. Like, yo, Wetburn Pet Saturday, and they said it's gonna rain. Like, what we gonna do? I want to go to the beach today. What we gonna do? And it's raining. So people be like, okay, I can't control the weather. People are finding out, damn, I can't control my personal circumstances in my life. I'm having trouble keeping up with my finances. I'm having trouble sticking to my diet. I'm having trouble controlling my own thoughts and feelings. So what's happening is you're finding out that your ego is very fragile, and the ego is having a hard time accepting the response of accepting full, remember, because we said we're gods now, and there's nothing outside of ourselves, no other forces is influencing everything. That means everything is on you. So you're like, damn, my life is a mess. I can't even blame it on the white man. I can't even blame it on no invisible spook. The ego is so fragile that it's having a hard time accepting full responsibility and accountability for such a high charge. So that's what's low key, or what I say high key, behind the mental health issue that's going on in our community. Is the thing that's instigating all this healing that everybody keeps talking about. We got to do it. You speak to every other person, I'm still healing. You'd be like, okay, when is the healing going to be done? Because we're thrown in this. It's almost like we're bipolar. We're fluctuating from claims of self divinity to self loathing, and this healing and this mental health crisis is about us mourning. It's about us mourning our shortcomings and our failure to hold frame, right? So that's what all your healing is about. You're like, okay, we keep being hard on ourselves from not holding our divine frame because we talk the big talk, and decades are going by and we're not feeling like we're improving with aligning ourselves under this talk that we talk. So we're at a crossroads of human culture. The crossroads of human culture will determine if we go to the next level or another level. Another level or the next level is still to be determined. We don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. So human culture is at a crossroads. Our spiritual culture, us as individuals, at a crossroads too, for our next level or another level, and that's still to be determined. And we have to. Am I going too fast? I know I get into my hip hop flow. So we have to be brutally honest with ourselves about how we're influenced by Western culture, Western science, Western filters and interpretations upon everything, because when we're honest with ourselves, we have been influenced, and that affects how we show up for ourselves. It affects how we show up for our families. It affects how we show up for each other in our fellowship. It affects how we interact and interface with our culture and our traditions. For instance, y'all hear us talking over the past 2 years that or 3 years since the pandemic, people are opting for online participation as opposed to in-person human energetic exchange. According to our traditions and our customs, in-person human energetic exchange is primary in your spiritual growth and your development. When they was planning the Haitian Revolution, they wasn't talking about give me the link. And that's a metaphor for the astral plane. We can meet up on other planes, but it's more difficult to do that. So nobody's like, I'll meet you in the dream plane tonight at 3. Like, it's still only very few individuals that's able to have that skill. But we've allowed ourselves to believe that everybody could do it. Everybody can do it, but who can actually access it for real? So you cannot marginalize the importance of showing up in live time. So the people are opting for online as opposed to in-person human energetic exchanges. So what are the consequences of that? I don't know what the consequences. That still remains to be seen. Now there's a conspiracy theory that says the way the direction is going now, the human culture, the crossroads we're at, they're trying to say the new level is going to be you'll have everything and own nothing and be happy about it. You'll have everything, you'll own nothing and be happy about it. That's showing up in the form of subscription plans. So you got your Netflix, they make it seem like it's cheap, only $5.99, and you be like, damn, I need Prime too. So okay, $5.99. Oh, you like, oh, I need that other Apple. That's two such and so. Here it is. You could buy a movie. You thought you bought a movie, and they say, buy the movie for $11. Back in the day, you get a hard copy. You're like, I own it. I can watch it when I want to watch it. So now you can own something, but you have to pay your subscription to be able to access it because it's in the cloud. And if something were to happen where you couldn't pay your subscription, then you can't access what you supposedly own. So you see what I'm saying? So you have stuff, but you don't really own it. But because of convenience, you're happy. Hyperinflation makes it almost feel like it's difficult. It almost feel like it's impossible for you to ever own that dream home that you were talking about. But they say, don't, it'd be cool. There's always rentals. And then you realize the new rent prices is the old mortgage prices. So you can't get the house, but at least you got an apartment. At least you're not on the street. So they want you to be happy about that. So forfeit your house, but just be thankful for what you got. And just perpetually strive for something that's going to be beyond your reach. Even with the booster shots, that's a subscription plan for your immune system. Don't worry about eating right and exercising. Just keep up on your booster shots and you'll be up to date on any new mysterious bugs or viruses that's going on. So you'll have everything, own nothing, and be happy about it. So people are asking, what does that have to do with nation building? So when you're talking about nation building and having your own for self, what is it, for us, by us, and things like that. So how do you reinforce a model like that if you're forfeiting in live time for the sake of convenience? So how do you nation build and when the human culture is going in a direction where you're not going to own anything and you're going to be happy about it, and then you're doing it in live time, so y'all not showing up, it's convenient for you not to show up. That's a way of forfeiting. You see what I'm saying? So we got to watch how subtle things are going. So what the essence of the message is, those who are centered in self will always be all right. Not centered in knowledge of self, not centered in philosophy of self. Y'all know the philosophy. Y'all could spout the platitudes, and we're used to the fancy definitions of who we say we are and who we say we're not. It's not about that. It's talking about centered in the reality of self. So if you're not centered in the reality of self, you're not going to be all right. If you're centered in the reality of self, through your experience, everything will always be all right. If you're not centered in the reality of self, things will never seem all right. You'll always be behind. You'll always be feeling like you missed the opportunity. You'll always feel like somebody's keeping something from you and stuff is not fair, the victim mentality, because you're not listening to the so-called higher self within. Why is it that you think people say that spirit or the divine is a small voice within? Why do you think that is? when they say listen to the still small voice within. What is it? What are they? Why is it a still small voice?
Because you haven't empowered it.
Because you haven't empowered. You got any thoughts on it? Y'all got any thoughts on it? We having a conversation.
Might take them a second to catch up.
And you can't be wrong. You're correct. And
Well, I mean, I don't know if this answers the question, but when I hear that so-called small voice in my head, I just have the ability to recognize that that's connecting to something higher than me. I feel like when I'm listening to myself, that's me responding to the exterior world. And so, sometimes when you do that, when you're overstimulated by so many things going on, that kind of affects you. Sometimes that could cloud your judgment in terms of listening to true voice, which would be the smaller voice within you that you hear.
they should be able to hear, all right?
I think they could hear her. There was also in the comments too much other noise. There was also your intuition speaking. At times it comes unexpectedly, but it's there. The more you listen to the small voice, the louder it will get, which is what I, I'm in alignment with that, because that's what I meant when I said, because you haven't empowered it. Like a lot of times you're not listening to it, so it's quiet. And so the more you listen to it, the louder it gets, the easier it is to recognize it. Many consider the inner voice to be small because people consider spirituality minor.
Okay.
That's an interesting perspective or answer, Michael. Appreciate that. I think that's all.
What's interesting about that is we say we're the divine being. So why have you made yourself small if you are that divine being? So let's get into the voice is small and it's still because somebody said because there's other voices, other voices that's louder. We have to factor in, remember, as above, so below, as above, so within, so without. So remember, you're born under certain circumstances in the universe. So there's certain astrological influences that's impressed you as you come into this plane. So your astrological birth chart is your default GPS for this world. So with certain things that that is mandatory that you go through and experience to balance out the karma that you're allotted in this world. So for a lot of people, that's why certain things don't work like clockwork. It's just certain things that you got to go through to build your character. And all these things are to get you back to center. It's not to get you off center. And that's why those Satan, devil philosophies undermine you in the divine scheme of things. Everything is to bring you back to center and to take responsibility and accountability for your life. So you have your astrological influence, and that's very subtle. Then you come into the world. For us as Africans in America, or melanated people over here in America, then we come into a world with misinformed parents. So they teach us a whole bunch of stuff because they ain't figured it out either. They was mumbling and bumbling and messing up, and they taught us a bunch of stuff. Now we from the gate, we're taught half-true things. And then the indoctrination of the school. So you start seeing different things, these other voices that's compounding upon what you already came impressed with. Then you go through the phase where you rebel against the school and rebel against your parents, and then you hanging with a bunch of other goofy people that ain't got nothing figured out either, and everybody thinking they knowing something because they rebelling against their parents and the so-called system. So that compounds. Then you finally cycle back around to get some knowledge of self, and now it's time to apply that stuff. So now you got all these voices. So you've been under wrong conditioning the majority of your life. So then you get initiated into this new thing, and that's the smallest voice because the other voices seem so natural and organic to you. So you go through initiation, and initiation clears your field, and you be like, oh, I can hear the voice a little bit better. Then you clean up your diet because your body is your channel. Then you be like, oh, I can hear it even more better. Then you start getting into yoga and meditation, clear up your nervous system because your nervous system is fuzzed up, the body's fuzzed up. You be like, oh, I can hear it even more. And then you start having the right philosophical and mental diet, and you be like, oh, I can hear it even more. So after all of that, after initiation to diet and all of that, why do we still contradict ourselves and fail? It's because we're used to the devil that we know. Remember, most people's condition has gone 3 decades. A lot of people are just becoming conscious within the last 10, 15 years. So you done got 20, 25 years in the game doing it wrong. So you don't have as much time doing it. Remember I said it's the devil that you know. You're not doing anything wrong. You're not a bad person. So I'm trying to have this conversation. Stop beating yourself up because you didn't do everything right or you're not doing everything correct, consistent enough. You're at where you're at in the whole scheme of things. Understand that there's a lot of momentum that you're working against at this point. For instance, with junk food, you're not bad for indulging in junk food. They made it taste good. And you're having a hard time shifting your perception about like, okay, should I eat just for the nutrition of my body? That's boring. This other stuff tastes good and it feels and it's fun. I know I'm supposed to be eating for but that's not fun. So you're not a bad person. It's just the devil that you know. And best believe if they made vegan and natural food taste 2 times better as the junk food, we'll do that with pleasure. But I don't feel like they found a balance yet. So doing the right thing hasn't always come as organic and natural as we like it to be, because our divine force is the smallest voice in all of that. So we need a culture that's going to get off, still all those other louder voices so the divine force could come up. So when that divine force gets louder and louder, you have to begin to learn to trust in that divine force. And that trusting is going to equal transcending. And when you transcend, then you become unworldly. Unworldly is being what they say in that other scripture, in the world, but not of it. And they be like, yo, you heard what they say they're about to do to black people? You be like, yo, that's cool, but that got nothing to do with what I'm doing right now. Because what? I'm a divine being. I have a say-so in things. Maybe, yo, you heard what they said about you behind your back? You're like, yeah, that's cool. That's a little bit disappointing, but that got nothing to do with what I'm doing now because I'm a divine being. You realize that it's 2023 and you survived some of the most unfortunate circumstances since your birth and you're still here. Now you're realizing that you're on a trajectory to somewhere, into something, and nothing and nobody could stop you except the divine or you. And the double entendre is you are the divine. So you're the only thing. You're responsible for getting yourself to where you need to get to, and you are responsible if you don't get to where you need to get to. So being honest with yourself looks like this: always doing the best that you can do with what it is. Oh, hip hop quotable, most deaf. Umi says, "I'm not a perfect man." What is that?
Oh,
I'm
man,
not a
don't
perfect
even look at me. I know
I'm
what
trying
you're
to
talking
do
about that.
the best that I can with what it is I have. That's most definitely hip hop quotable.
Umi says,
Yeah.
I cannot help with hip hop quotables at any level.
She's a little younger.
I cannot. I can't.
All right,
I
so
can't help with that.
it's about doing what it is the best that you can. That's a statement, but I'm talking about being honest with yourself. Are you honest that you're doing the best that you can with what it is that you have? Some people say it, but they, in their heart of hearts, they know it's not true. So we're at the crossroads to get into your heart of hearts. Are you really doing the best that you can with what it is you have? All you're required to do is what it is. All you're required to do is the best that you can. No more, no less. If you're always doing the best that you can with what it is that you have, then you will always be at the right place. And you will always be at the right time. And check it out. Here's the crux of the matter. If you're always doing the best that you can do with what it is that you have, you're always at the right place and at the right time. And this is the thing that messes people up. What happens when I've done the best that I could do and it's not enough? That's the thing that scares people, that shakes people up. Remember, all that you're required to do is the best that you can do. No more, no less. I'm letting y'all off the hook. No more, no less. If that's not good enough, it's not on you. You release that to the ancestors, the Netru and Orisha. Don't that feel good to get that pressure off you? I'll put it like this: don't ever worry about something that's beyond your spiritual pay grade. That's a quotable. I ain't see it pop up on the screen. No.
It's coming right now. Right
You
now.
heard me?
Not ever.
You already
Let
know.
me type it real quick. Dad.
She doing the best she can do.
No, she was like, she stopped.
No, you saw me. I was contemplating, and I was like, shoot, I gotta say.
Never worry about anything that is above your spiritual pay grade. You ain't here to fix nothing. You just here to do what it is that you're supposed to do. Eat what's on your plate. You ain't here to do him at work, my work, or these other cats' work. Don't we all at some point at another then we all say, I ain't signed up for this. That's right. So metaphysically, metaphorically, everybody has to hold their own nuts.
Mm-hmm.
You ain't here to do nobody else's. That other narrative made it seem like you came to earth and you got to do all this stuff for other people, and they ain't like, no. The reality of the metaphor is children are expected to grow up. There's something wrong in the scenario where if a parent has to constantly intervene in their grown child's life, that's something off. So if you're the child of the divine, the child of the universe, you're expected to grow up to be a productive divine being. Just like in this world, you can't stay a child. You have to grow up to be a productive member of society.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody has to metaphorically hold their gonads. So now wouldn't the world be a better place if everybody did the best that they could with what it is that they have, no more, no less? So I'm not stressed about what you're doing or what you failing to do because you're supposed to be doing it. If you want it, I'm on it, Maakra on it. That's the key to a better world. The most organic thing to do is to live life. The most organic thing to do is to live life. The most organic thing to do is to succeed in life. That's another thing that messes people up. People think success is so hard. The most organic thing to do is to live. The most organic thing to do is to succeed. Success is not a bunch of money and a bunch of material things. Success is just this. Success is the completion of a succession of required tasks. That's what success is. The completion of a succession of required tasks. What it is that we do is we keep making that harder than what it is when it's actually organic. Especially for those of us that claim we have knowledge of self and we know better and we don't need nobody to tell us nothing. Okay, fine. So now, if I'm thirsty, do I reach for the beer? Do I reach for the juice? Marcus says she reaches for the beer. Sometimes. Well, our ancestors, didn't the ancestors drink beer?
Yeah,
they actually did. So when you're thirsty, you get up and you drink water. You don't got to make a big production out of it. We be trying to make a big production. We always want somebody to steer our narrative in the neck. Oh, you're not this. You're more now. You're not that. Oh, we're Indians now. And then the conspiracy thing. Oh, you heard they got something to stop the Moors from Mooring and the Indians from Indians and the Kemetic from Kemetic. And it's always something. Everybody like all this provocative stuff that takes you away from being centered on yourself. Is almost a form of narcissism. If everything is a reflection of you, then you might as well get yourself right, show up better for yourself, and then if everything's a reflection, the world fixes itself. We don't have to go trying to fix every little thing, just show up correctly. Mm-hmm. So we don't make a big thing out of drinking. When you go to the gym, you know you have to raise your heart rate. You ain't got to study no science books. Once you start lifting the weights, your breath is gonna change. You get on that treadmill, your breath it's natural. When you sit down and meditate, you don't got to read books about breath control. When you sit down and meditate and go within your thought process, I don't think nobody ever sat down and meditate and their heart rate went up unless they hiding from some stuff and they don't want to face some stuff that they're dealing with. Sleeping is supposed to be natural. So all of those things are tasks. So the completion of all those tasks means that you're on your way to success. So upon closer examination, so you'd be like, okay, I'm successful when I meditated. I'm successful when I went to the gym 3 times a week. I'm successful when I chose the right thing to eat. I'm successful when I got a restful sleep. So now look at the issue. So what happens is upon closer examination, look at people's lives. How many people didn't finish high school? It's not, not nobody in here, hopefully. And if so, we got to have that conversation. We're here for the hard conversations. We're not here to spout the platitudes anymore. So some people haven't finished high school. That's an incomplete, that's a failure of a succession of a task. Some people failed to get whatever certification that they need to make that next level of money. Some people didn't finish their education, their diplomas. Some people haven't finished their cleansing, their diet plan and things like that. So if you haven't been successful in the required completion of tasks, why do you think you're owed this bigger piece of pie out in the world? Why? What gives you the right to think you need more when you haven't been successful in the required completion of tasks? Y'all understand? So we have to be careful because the way the Democrats got it, they be like, oh, you know how they set you up. Don't worry about it. You know, it's okay that you didn't finish the education. We have some public housing for you, and that's how you create PJs. That they get you okay with not completing your tasks. It's okay you didn't have a high school. We got all these programs and stuff to get you relaxed into underachieving. It's okay you don't want to go to work. Now they get talking about that AI stuff. Just stay home and then eventually we'll just put you on a stipend because you don't do much. You don't require much anyway, so we'll just give you $2,500. That should take care of your groceries and stuff like that. Oh, you don't want to go to the gym and stuff like that. Just sign up for the subscription plan for the immunity and get your 4 booster shots, one every season, and you ain't got to worry about it. And as y'all listening to it, your intuition is rating like, oh hell no, nah, that ain't gonna be me. So we shouldn't need rituals or make this big fanfare out of doing what's supposed to be natural for us, which is living life, which is the completion of a succession of tasks. What happens is we're more committed to punishing ourselves for not being perfect instead of just supporting this organic process. That's my thoughts on the matter. So
Dua Nunter. Dua for sharing your thoughts on the matter.
Oh, so my final thought that's my thought on the matter in the sense that last time I spoke, we talked about faith. We talk about allowing the ancestors, the Netru and the Risha to work for you. So get back to just organically, just approaching your life organic. Like, I'm good. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. Let me do it, and not just do it in the form of an empty ritual, but do it with heart. That's the key. Do everything that you do with heart. When you go to the gym, stop playing that music in your ears. Be present. The gym, when you go to the gym, that's the religion of the body. You got to pay attention to what's going on. So you got to feel that. You got to feel that connection between the mind and the body and allow us. We spend too much time distracting ourselves from being present at the same time. How many people are watching this and they got music playing in the background? So that's that split energy. So when you're at the gym, be at the gym. When you're eating, just eat. When you sleep, stop all this trying to multitask. That multitask thing splits your energy. And then when it's time for something that requires you to authentically show up, then that's why you start feeling lost. And that's why you can't feel your power a lot of the times. So walking in your purpose is finding out what is your skill set, what is your purpose in aligning your needs with your want. Can your skill set support your needs and your wants and your purpose? If you can align those things together, that's the beginning of you walking in your magical power. Now I'm finished.
Dua Nunter. I noticed that Jason had asked a question about how do you quiet, how do you listen to the inner voice? What's a good technique of drowning out the louder voices? I appreciate Abut Sashat of the Shrine of Ma'at for answering. Wepet Ma'akara answered about meditation, learning to still the mind, to ignore distractions. Wepet Ma'akara said discernment is key as well. And to that, I would add divination as an additional tool, because divination helps to confirm what the inner voice is telling you. Like, until you build trust in your relationship with your inner voice, then that going to divination and having that guidance and that insight provided to you helps you to build that trust. Because a lot of time, like as a reader, I find that a lot of times people come to the reading and they kind of already know, and then you start saying it and they be like, I figured you was gonna say that. I felt that in my. I thought that's what I was hearing. I thought that's what Spirit was saying. I just wasn't sure if I should act on it. I wasn't sure if I was hearing the message the right way. Like a lot of it's not very often that I find especially with spirits, people who are doing their work, are meditating, etc. It's not very often that I find myself telling them things that they didn't already intuit. They wasn't solid. They wasn't sure, right? Whether or not that trust, they're rebuilding that trust. So that's what divination does. Divination is like, no, no, no. The voice you heard can be trusted. Your own inner voice can be trusted. So once you go into getting a reading and you have that confirmed, now you can listen to your own voice more, right? Because you've got that confirmation. So,
All right,
go ahead.
let's do, what do they call it? Ujama. um, to address Jason's answer, what's the sister's name? It's a shot from
Shrine of my aunt.
Do you still do your Monday meditations online, Sasha? And do you all the meditation instructors in the chat put a 1, and everybody else pay attention who put that 1 in, and those are the people you seek those answers for. Communion is not for that, no, and that's no disrespect to Jason. I'm glad they're here, so they're just showing that the community is here. In the community, there's always different tiers of the community, and there's specialists and everything. Mm-hmm. Like me and him, we don't have to do it all. We got Maakra, we got Sashat in there, and we have Kaiti in there. So I know it's at least 5 at any given time meditation instructors. So we at the crossroads. The crossroads is no more excuses. You got to unkin ma'at. You got to live your truth. Live yourself into the truth. So at this point, there shouldn't be no such animal that exists on the planet as a Kimite who don't know how to meditate and who is not proficient at meditation. So if you don't know how to do it, get with one of the sisters or the brothers and let's get on it, because that's going to determine how fast you move or evolve in your path. Mm-hmm. There is no spirituality without your ability to go within. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Somebody said something.
I just want to point out that there was a question asked by Smaya Amakeda about, she said it takes a while to figure out the best way of dealing with triggers in a healthy way that triggers resets the healing. How can we bypass the process of learning healthy ways of not being triggered? And I'm not saying you have to answer that right now. I just wanted to point out the question and acknowledge that we saw it, so that it would be known that, at some point or another we'll address that question. Okay.
Everything is about how you show up. So when a trigger happens, remember this whole comedic thing, the essence of it is about figuring things out. Just to put that on the table, there's a whole other lesson is African culture isn't about Yoruba, it's not about Ifa, it's not about Kemet. When you hear Yoruba, Ifa, Kemet, that's black folks figuring stuff out. Mm-hmm. And there's no limitations to figuring stuff out. Don't let nobody say don't learn this. You're going to have to learn a lot of things on how to figure things out. So spirituality is about showing up and being conscientious about every thought, word, and deed. So what happens is when triggers happen, you're supposed to know when you're triggered. And when that trigger happens, there's a series of questions you have to ask yourself. You can just be like, okay, because, for instance, somebody could say something about you or to you, and then it could be very offensive. You got to ask yourself, is it true or not? Mm-hmm. And if it's not true, or is there some truth to it? Because they're saying it. Like people don't just be making stuff up. People have experiences. We all interact. Remember, it's all reflection anyway. So be like, okay, is it true? Is there something I could do to prevent this perception or this experience from happening? Mm-hmm. And am I showing up as my best version as I go forward looking for a resolution to this issue? As simple as that. People might not like it, because if you don't do that, a lot of people are just into justifying their feelings. Some people like being mad. Some people like telling people off. And so my thing is that we're at that cross. If that's what you like doing, just say it, but stop trying to justify it. Remember, you're a divine being. You will have a choice at any given time whether you're going to feed into something, whether you're going to transcend something, whether you're going to learn something, whether you're going to reinterpret that experience. But it's all a reflection of you. And sometimes we don't like what we see when we look in the physical mirror, and sometimes we might not like what we see when it's coming back to us through other people. But it's all you. What's that?
Abu Sashad talking about putting together a new site, and her new site will have tons of videos.
Okay.
A new yoga site.
Well,
Know yourself to lead yourself. Dua Wada for sharing that quote. And I just want to also acknowledge we appreciate everybody today because there was a lot of movement in the chat, a lot of comments, a lot of good questions, a lot of good reflections. Folks really internalizing the six words today. I could tell it was meaning a lot to you because you had a lot of feedback and were connecting it to things that was going on in your life. I know I didn't get to all the comments right here on the live, but I saw things that let me know that y'all, it was not just like sitting here listening and then like leaving the day and not taking none of it with you. It's clear that you taking some of it back with you and y'all are giving it some real thought. And I'm appreciative of seeing those reflections in the comments and in the chat. So Dua Nete for spending your time with us today and for sharing in this energy. And now we release you so you can go enjoy your family cookouts. We appreciate the reciprocity that you send to us in the form of donations to help us to further along our mission and continue to do the work that we're doing in the community and beyond. Donations can be sent by Cash App to $Temple of Anu or by PayPal to templeofanu@gmail.com. And we will be back here in this space, both on Facebook and YouTube Live, in 2 weeks on Sunday, June 11th, for our next regularly scheduled communion. Shemi Matep, everybody.
Shemi Matep.